I'm Jamison Go from Team SawBlaze, and you're listening to the RoboCast.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sam Elliott64, and welcome back to the RoboCast. Not with Steve the American Killjoy, with World of Woodrow, and our guest, Jamison Go. And our substitute for this week, Mystrsyko. Very, very last
Hi.
minute. How are you, my friend? It's been a long old time since we've had you here.
Yeah, it has been. It's kind of last minute, but I'm cool with this. Let's go.
How have you been enjoying the season so far, Mike?
Oh my goodness, I've been falling out of my chair. It's been so exciting.
Well, I'll ask, I guess, as well, JMO, how have you been enjoying the season? Because, I mean, we'll get to your second fight a bit later on, but that first fight with Minotaur was something to behold.
Oh yeah, I mean that first fight, we're sitting in the stands getting those first matchups, and as soon as you hear it, they announce it over to they get all the builders in the stands, and we were just like, oh man, this is going to be a tough one. Uh, we saw the Minotaur team, and we looked at our own team. We're like, oh man, okay, this is how it's going to start. You never know which way it's going to go, so
Mm.
butterflies everywhere.
Absolutely, and I mean, it went very well for you. I mean, but let's talk about the machine. Obviously, the changes you've made from last season to this season. Because let's face it, last season it was a very, I feel like it was a very good season, but I feel like there was a bit of disappointment to go out in the same kind of round as you did the previous year. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, it is still a very deep spot in the tournament to go out on. So
Sure.
we're trying to think about that in terms of like a disappointment. We're still very proud of the achievement, but yeah,
Mm.
we always like to do a little bit better than the previous season. So in some ways, you could say like, oh, does it feel like we stagnated a little bit? I don't know. I think the quality of wins in that past season are definitely increasing. So we always look for the positive. I think that overall, even though we went out in the same round, the team felt like the robot and the how we handled ourselves in general was just doing better and better.
Mm. I think that's fair to say. I mean, to be fair, like I mean, the evidence of that is the fight against Witch Doctor last season, where the season before Witch Doctor gave you a good beating, whereas you returned the favor in 2020.
Precisely. Yeah, I mean, the opponent that beats you is kind of the measure of your progression. It's how I like to think about it, and I'm sure a lot of people would agree. So that Witch Doctor fight particularly was meaningful, and you know, this year we're thinking about Tantrum, and I'm sure Witch Doctor is thinking about us.
Yeah,
So
I was
Absolutely.
gonna
Well,
say Tantrum came out of nowhere last year and just continued to break the bracket the further into the bracket it got, for many people, and even we on the RoboCast said to Aaron's face that he would lose that fight against SawBlaze, and we've had to make several apologies since.
it was not the humble pie was consumed very very
Yeah,
quickly after that. Let's talk about the new SawBlaze. What are the key areas where you kind of think, okay, these are the big marginal gains? Because it's essentially it's the same machine to look at, but there's just a few tweaks here and there. Like, what do you reckon the key differences were?
yeah, from the bird's eye view, it looks basically the same thing. The same two-wheel drive, the lots of metal up in the front. The arm design is basically the same. The chassis is completely different, and there's a few reasons why for that. I guess we'll say the main focus areas was actually not to improve the weapon that much. So the weapon system is actually the same one that we've been running for last year. Uh, but what we want to make sure is that it can take hits and is more reliable. Funniest thing, uh, two of our two big losses last year to Uppercut and Tantrum actually where some of it were related to the weapon reliability issues. So just the fact that our weapon can hit the wall or it can be back driven by another vertical spinner and it breaks a component in the gear train, if the arm gets stopped, the robot strategy is completely out the window. The arm is incredibly critical to basically everything. So they're like, you know what, we should probably put a little bit more into making sure it doesn't break. Um, so the weapon power itself is the same. The reliability in the transmission that actually performs the hammering motion is increased. We introduced a sort of a cushion drive in between, so there's some rubber elements which absorb some of the shock. We have a new gearbox design uh, that has much larger module gears and things like that, so can handle all the abuse. That's it for that weapon system. Uh, And to sort of take some of the hits in the front a little bit better, we've changed the fork design and also some of the design for the plow itself. So we talked about it in our first post on social media. Our forks, instead of being a multi-component welded design, it's now just one thick chonkin piece of AR 500, and it's easier to repair because you don't have to cut and grind all these little plates and things like that and weld them on. It's just one big thick plate, and if you lose the edge, you just grind off a little bit more, and it's the same stock, much easier to deal with.
Mm.
And you can also notice on the front corners here, we have these sort of multifaceted UHMW pieces. These we call them, I guess my team calls them the cheeks. So those are just solid pieces of UHMW, like a nod to Shatter for the idea of the ablative armor. They bolt onto the sides. Looking at our losses and places where we take a lot of damage, even if we do win, those corners take a lot of hits as teams try to get to the outside, try to get to the wheels. And I think that was displayed excellently in the Minotaur fight as well, as they took a huge chunk out of one of those cheeks as they flipped us over in the opening seconds, but didn't cause any damage. Functionally, the robot was fine, and we were able to bounce back very quickly.
Mm.
I think a lot of teams have kind of wisened onto this, but like the usage of plastics in recent years. Obviously, Huge kind of pioneered it with its wibbly legs and wibbly wheels, and obviously Shatter took it to the next level, throughout last season and previously, and obviously now yourselves and other teams I think have kind of gone onto actually maybe we should have these, just to cover critical areas as opposed to the whole machine. It doesn't need to be fully coated in plastic, but where there's a potential threat of, let's say, on SawBlaze, taking a big hit on the side, it was enough to kind of dissipate enough energy to kind of just, you're not worried that you're going to sustain massive damage to yourself. Instead of, it might still cause some damage, but not to the same degree as it would do if it wasn't there, let's say.
Yeah, I mean, I think that people are starting to realize the value of plastics and other, rubbers, compliant elements, basically. I think the thought train for a long time has been, I need to make my robot and my armor as hard and as rigid as possible so it can take all the abuse, but there's some merit, of course, to actually absorbing energy instead of taking it completely and taking it, and if you can take that damage, isolating it versus letting it propagate to the entire machine, I think is being incredibly valuable. And that's underneath the cheek. We have the AR, and then the AR front plow assembly is mounted on vibration isolators anyways. So there's many different steps in serial where this absorbs energy before it even makes it to our electronics.
Yeah.
Some good stuff.
Something interesting, or something I've been interested in knowing, in both of your fights that we've seen so far, you've only run with 3 of the forks instead of the 4. What was the reasoning behind that?
So the image you see here is it's the 4-fork design. What might not be totally clear in this one is that these forks that are shown in this picture are actually shorter, and they have a lot of internal cutouts on the ends and in the middle. The longer ones that we've been using so far don't have as many cutouts and are a few inches longer, and that's to get that reach advantage. So as a result of being longer and less weight cut out, they are a little bit heavier. So we make that trade-off. And also with these vertical spinners, you never know which way you're going to land. In our last fight, we lucked out and the robot didn't experience alternate reorientations. The Minotaur one could have possibly gone in that wrong way. So we've been keeping our full chassis, our nominal chassis armor sets for the tops and bottoms. So they're thicker and made of metal instead of composites. So those weigh a little bit more in the long run as well.
So now you know. Now you know. Should we talk about some fights from this week? Because there were quite a few good ones, and I feel like we should probably crack on. There's a lot to talk about for sure. So fight number 1 was Malice and Jackpot. Of course, Jeff, formerly on the Malice team, well, didn't even get to be on the Malice team before Malice competed.
Was on the Malice team when it was in the designing and building phase, and then split off just before the 2020 season to build Jackpot, and turned it around in a month or so, I believe.
Still crazy to think about.
And I enjoyed the shade and just throwing the Malice jacket to the floor. It's like, I am done with thee.
See, I liked it when the Malice team turned to them and called them traitors right before the
Yes.
fight.
Yes, again, we love the gamesmanship here, and it's very much, very much afoot with this fight. It was a really good fight as well. Malice lasting a lot better than it did in the first fight with its weapon. Kept giving hits, but eventually Jackpot just turned it on, and I really feel like Jackpot. We mentioned it might have a bit of a difficult season. People are a lot more aware of its existence now. Last year it was very much it turned up after being built for 4 weeks. Now I'm starting to think, it's really quite good. It's really good.
That Heartbreaker setup is really... I mean, it's not only nice on the eye, but it works very, very nicely. The big front plough and that single heart-shaped disc, which is just... I mean, if ever you've seen a themed robot, there is none better than Jackpot, I feel. It's just... It's all there, isn't it? It's so very... Vegas.
It's very complete, isn't it, in its aesthetic, and I'm here for it. And there was also a few nice little messages. On the plough it said, "Show me the bunny."
Yeah,
very nice. And obviously was it full send on the heart as well?
Yeah, along the side of it.
Very nice. Just you got to appreciate the smaller details, and Jackpot really, really turned it on in this fight, and Malice 0-2.
It's a different season to last year, for sure. I mean, this is very much a case of look how much the robots are changing season to season by the fact that Malice came in as a newbie last year and was reasonably good and got into the 32 to now being 0-2 and very much found out, despite the fact that they've made some really nice changes to it this year, and just the tail to stop it landing on its back, and this I think it's the blackout drum, is it called, or something like that? Roaring blackout, that's it. It's a real nasty field out there this year.
I'm kind of curious what failed in Malice during this fight, because I think it was left-sided drive gave out on them, and it was just spewing sparks out at one point. So it might have been another motor failure like they had with their weapon last fight, which is something we didn't see last season from them. They weren't having any problems with their drive. So I'm kind of curious what's going on with the robot this time, if it's getting hit harder than it ever was before, or if they've changed something and kind of need to go back to what worked.
So, Jamie, I'm not sure if you're familiar with what happened with Malice there, are you? Or...
No, unfortunately. I was thinking about it. Like, I know that, they ended up having a gearbox problem, but I think that was pretty apparent. I don't know all the details about what happened to the weapon or the drive.
And of course, Jackpot struggled with drive at the end as well. By the looks of things, they were starting to pivot.
I wonder if the wedge got bent under itself.
It's a possibility.
It might have been the case if they were maybe slightly high centered.
There was also a moment in this that we haven't spoken about yet, which is another light has been a victim. I think it was one of the parts that hold on the weapon teeth. Was shot skywards and glass came falling down.
I did enjoy the Jackpot team celebrating in the kind of the slow-mo's post-fight. They were like, "Yeah, we got the light," and then you just got Greg probably in the background just crying that he's going to spend more money on fixing the arena. These damn robots. Good win for Jackpot. 2-0 again. They still haven't lost, I think, in the pre-season fights, which is a great record to have, considering they've now done 5 fights. I want to say, is it Hydra that have the record of 7? Obviously, Bite Force of 8. Okay, let's ignore that.
Yeah.
So Bite Force have 8.
Of course, doesn't count.
Yeah, God tier machines, aside. Jackpot's on 5. One more win, and you got to think you got to be looking at a high seed for them as well, because they beat Malice, who this season they're struggling, but are a known quantity, quite good. And who do they fight? It was Deadlift, wasn't it? First?
And both of these fights have been really good, really, really solid fights for both. I mean, for everyone involved, really. I mean, we didn't see Deadlift struggling in that one. It wasn't exactly against a weak machine there, and the same can be said for Malice. They were roaring on all cylinders to start with.
Talking strength of schedule, do you think they're going to throw Jackpot somebody really big next fight?
I think they've got to, haven't they? Surely. I mean, they've obviously they lost. JMO, you're looking a bit quizzical there. I think obviously they fought Rotator, didn't they, in the bracket last year? I think they've got to face someone like high end again, haven't they? Because obviously they fought Lockjaw in their third fight last year, and Lockjaw was struggling at the time. Was it 1-on-1 at the time? Something like that.
I think so. They'd had a lot of issues with burnouts and things.
I can't remember. But,
but being 5-0 in the regular season, I mean, Hydra, Copperhead.
They've got to
one
give
of the top
big,
four would
surely.
be a good match.
Yeah, maybe SawBlaze. You never know.
Green Robots. I don't know.
Yeah. Let's talk about fight number 2, which was Ribbot and Overhaul, the returning Overhaul, of course. Jamo, your former teammate from a long time ago now.
Yeah, watching this was painful.
Yeah.
I mean, I still root for Charles, like, for sure. I mean, I root for David and his crew as well. These are both great teams, both good friends of mine. So, but you know, I think I mean, we always hope for a good fight, and this one was kind of a slaughter.
Yeah.
apparently frogs can kill cats. Apparently, who
yeah. Frogs greater than cats. I especially enjoyed Blue Anime Frog.
Yes,
in this one.
The poison dart frog.
Yeah,
very very enjoyable that was.
It's been a while since we've had the sort of chameleonic Ribbot sort of dressing up. I mean, obviously, the best one still, I think, has to be the SawBlaze dress up, where it's just black with the green flames. I mean, it's
very, very enjoyable.
Yeah.
I miss the legs. You know.
I miss the legs.
Yeah. I think this is a better tactical decision in the long run. Still maintains the frog aesthetic, but I miss the floppy bits. You know, every time it drives around, it goes. Woo!
I think there was that rule change, wasn't there, with regard to was it
not allowed to use the foam anymore.
Yeah, I wonder if that
takes far too long to clear up.
Yes,
it goes everywhere.
One thing I do want to talk about in this fight, which I find quite interesting, is the fact that Overhaul didn't go with a big wedge. Now, I think this is due to the new rules, isn't it, with regard to modular weaponry, I think.
I was going to say something about that, because isn't the Ribbot team known for swapping their modules back and forth continuously before a fight to screw the other team up?
I think so.
So you have to lock in, I believe, a design for your robot, how you're going to enter the arena, and then you can't change it once it's like locked in, or that's supposedly the rule. I don't know whether it's
even then, there's no reason why Ribbot can't set up with a vert and then say, okay, we're going to use the horizontal, and then change it as late as they can, sort of thing, to kind of throw the opposition to think, okay, they're just going to run the vert, sort of thing. I wonder if that kind of played into it a little bit.
Jamison, do you happen to know what went on?
I will comment as to the proceedings about how it should be done, or how it is intended to be done per the rules. As to what actually transpired, I have heard many rumors and will share none of them, because I think it just sounds really bad. So what's supposed to happen is that in the case where you have robots with all these configurations or levels of modularity, you can call over an official who will then basically go to each team individually, and each team will basically show them their proposal in clear detail, whether that's physically having the things there or a picture of the setup that you intend to run. So basically, you're supposed to give them as much detail as possible. There's some cases in previous years where there were pictures given that weren't very clear, obviously to sort of deceive a little bit. So this year they're asking for extreme explicitness in terms of your configuration, and these are submitted to an official, where at a given time the submission is locked in, and you will be expected to run that or face consequences such as like forfeit or whatnot. But you have to actually engage with the official, otherwise they don't know that they need to moderate, because they're busy people, they're going all over the place. So if you don't do that, you're kind of left to this game that I don't think anyone really loves.
So we've
even
heard
I don't
stories
love it. I run veto weights. I don't love this game either.
We've heard stories from other teams in the past where, like for example, Hydra last year, where they had that, the keep away stick for Gigabyte and things like that, where they were putting things on the machine, then taking things off and putting things on and taking things off, just to kind of keep people guessing. I think I want to say it might have been against Ribbot last year. Mad Catter bought both versions, the hammer and the spinner.
Yeah, and they had a little race to see who got what configuration, according to the TV show. Anyway,
that was right at our pit. It was true. They're like, what was it? Martin's like, hey, like, Oh wait, no, I gotta get the voice right.
Here we go.
JMO, can you be the officiant for like who wins? And he's like, wait a second, you're biased. Uh, yeah, so yeah, there's been cases of things like that. However, I mean, with this new, like with this official involved, so you can submit a configuration. If you want to play the mind game anyways, technically you're allowed to do that. It's just that when it comes down to match time, you have to have the one that you promised.
Mm.
So I don't know if maybe they told Ribbot, maybe Ribbot told the official like we're gonna run the horizontal, and then he's playing games with the vert the entire time, like turning screws to the last minute or like mounting it to the chassis. So I don't know exactly what happened here, but in any case, we saw the result,
Yes,
and
we
it
did.
wasn't a pretty one.
Yeah.
There are some great pictures on Charles's Facebook page of the damage to Overhaul, and oh my goodness, there is damage to Overhaul.
There's some big chunks out of it. I'm bearing in mind that front bulkhead is thick. You can see how thick it is. That
It's dummy thick.
No, it was a bit done in as well.
It's seen better days, but it for my 2 cents. I mean, it was great to see Overhaul back in the arena. Like, I think it's a machine that I've kind of appreciated more as the years have gone on, and it's just an interesting machine to look at, and especially now there are several of this style of grab and lift machine, and then this and Bite Force, the original Bite Force with the two back in the day, which were like the premier ones, and it's good to see it back. And hopefully, I mean, to be fair, for a first fight back, Ribbot is not a nice draw to get, so hopefully Overhaul will have fare a little better later on in the season. Let's talk about fight number 3, which was Orby Blade, which I'm still going to call it Orby Blade because I just think it sounds better, and Skorpios, your brother-in-law from a SawBlaze point of view. And let's rejoice because we saw a two-head Death Flamingo t-shirt on TV. It happened. Yes, we made it.
Hey, I get a bingo square for that.
You do get a bingo square. There is a secret game of bingo going on this year that we're all enjoying very much, and Mike has really suffered from not many squares again this year, so it's nice for you to get one finally.
Yeah, I think that's the first one or the second one of the season.
There's certainly some of yours that have already been killed. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was a very enjoyable moment to see. And Diana, thank you for making our dreams come true. Fight-wise, it was a dream come true for Skorpios as well, because this was a beatdown.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been a few people obviously online, saying Skorpios should have held back against Orby, but I think it's kind of similar to what you said in your first episode review, Mike. You cannot let an opponent go because they might just come back to life if they keep hitting it, and it might just turn around and start wailing on them.
Exactly.
Likewise.
We've seen that in a fight later in this episode, even.
Yeah.
And what surprised me the most was just how very one-sided it was. I know Orby, they're a good team. Blade is a really good robot and it hits really hard, but Skorpios gave them exactly zero opportunity to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little bit surprising. I mean, I know that I'm going to make a little bit of a sarcastic comment here. Like, Blade is supposed to be Tombstone with all of its flaws fixed because it's got wheel guards, it has a wedge, it has a self-righting mechanism, and every one of those things cost it this fight because Skorpios just got under the wedge and lifted all its wheels off the ground.
Yeah.
Like, constantly. And to be fair, we know Zach is a very good driver. He's very experienced in fighting robots, and he did not give Orby a chance to kind of spin up or just drive away or anything. And the improvements to the weapon are profound because we were not seeing these kind of hits last year from Skorpios.
Like an absolute tank.
It's like watching
really
a SawBlaze fight.
Yeah.
I mean, you must have been, Jamie, you must have been slightly impressed from the other side of, it's a machine that's obviously understandably compared to SawBlaze because they kind of appeared around the same time and they've kind of gone up through the ranks at a similar pace. I'd say probably, with the exception of, last season, I think Skorpios is kind of a little bit behind every now and then, but this is a big leap forward to have a weapon of that caliber.
Yeah, we're all often compared. Was it the we're the blue green Skorpios and Skorpios is the blue SawBlaze or something. We also switched to the hammer saw in the same year as well, so it only makes it worse. Watching Skorpios in this fight, I mean, I was cheering for both teams. I have a lot of respect for both these teams, and also knowing that Skorpios has upgraded their weapon system in their builders blogs, definitely looking forward to seeing what it could do. And I'll totally agree. It was putting out the pain. It's vastly improved since last season, and I was like, hey, that's good. That's good stuff. Those are good hits. I mean the back on Orby, I believe, is Hardox. So I mean those are some really good cuts, similar to like Blacksmith's fight. I enjoyed watching the power hammer go to work.
Absolutely.
It's worth.
Go on, Jevon.
I was going to say it's worth noting that the Orby team and the Skorpios team have known each other for a few years now. They, I believe, Zach went over and did an event over in Korea that the Orby team put on with some smaller weight class machines, and so these two teams know each other, and I think that goes into part of why this fight went on for so long, because the Skorpios team didn't want to let that fight just be a short one and keep it going and have a good time, see if Orby could get back into it while still winning the fight. Because we've seen it a few times in this season and in this episode as well that going after helping out a robot that seemingly is incapacitated has come back to bite them. So, I think it was done out of the goodness of the show.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it is a shame because as we, for those that have seen Orby Blade and under the hood, it is a beautifully engineered machine, and a lot of the parts that were very painstakingly and expensively machined. It was a lot of damage was taken, and there's some great photos online of the damage afterwards, and you just wince a little bit and you think, oh, it's just a lot to repair. But they have got a spare one, so hopefully we'll see more fights for Blade later on in the season that
I
work
will
out
say
for them.
as well how happy I am to see the Orby team and Blade competing in BattleBots.
Finally.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. They were really, really good entertainment value on King of Bots, and as they said, they're in the big leagues now, and it's great to see them here.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to a full power hit sometime later.
We've got to see it. It's hopefully.
Yeah, Skorpios is not a very nice matchup for this first fight, is it?
No.
They take horizontals for breakfast. I mean, we saw that last season. I mean, with the exception of Bloodsport last season, they fought pretty much all horizontals in the pre-season fights, and obviously fought Ice Wave in the Bounty. This is their bread and butter, and it was very evident that this is a well-drilled team with a robot that they know so very well, fighting against the machine that they built the machine for. Basically, that's the style of robot that they built the machine for.
Jamison, the whole audience, well, not the whole audience, but a lot of the audience really want to see a match between Skorpios and SawBlaze. What are your thoughts on said match?
I don't really want a fight like that. I know everyone wants to see it, and it's like, to what purpose would it serve? It's I guess to answer the eternal question is who would beat who, but does that mean that one robot's better than the other? I don't think so. It could be a number of things, just luck, circumstances, all the different setup games, because they have different front ends. We have different front ends now. It could be a lot of that different circumstance, and yeah, I don't know. I think it would end up being like Thumb Wars, but no one wants to strike. So
what you guys should do just to have some fun with it is have a grudge match with Skorpios and you guys switch robots for the fight.
I was going to say, change machines.
Well, we hope to have Zach and Diana on later in the series, so I'll try and remember to ask them the same question, basically, and then we can just put that whole thing to bed.
It's interesting because I personally see SawBlaze as a more aggressive machine than Skorpios, and Skorpios more defensive. That may change this season with the addition of the new weapon on Skorpios, but that's kind of the impression I've always had. So
yeah, that's generally kind of what like Zach and I have kind of we've worked through the advantages and disadvantages, because through the AMAs and all sorts of other podcasty things, people ask a lot of the same questions. So we actually like sat down and said, okay, how do we distinguish ourselves? What do we think? And although the robots are very visually similar, it is exactly that. Skorpios tends to have a much stronger and more defensive. They take the hits in their weapon system. Maybe it's getting there for sure. and maybe it's generally accepted that maybe SawBlaze does more damage or something. So we're more on the glass cannon end, and they're more on the defense end.
To put it in sort of
So
perhaps for fans of Pokemon, the trading card game, you've got the rapid strike and the single strike.
I don't like TCG. It doesn't do it for me.
You can make up your mind which way round it is.
Let's move on. Let's move on quickly to speaking of rapid strikes, Tombstone versus Mammoth.
Oh.
This fight went exactly how I thought it would, right up until it didn't.
Yeah.
For my 2 cents, I thought it was very, very cruel giving Mammoth Tombstone after they managed to beat the horizontal hijinks. I thought, okay, they've proven they can handle a horizontal.
This is another audience request fight, unfortunately.
It really is.
The whole audience asked to see Mammoth versus Tombstone when Mammoth first came on the scene. I don't know why people just have a sick sense of humour or something, I don't know, but we finally got it, and boy, did it kind of deliver, but also throw a lot of stuff into the air.
I'm gonna throw out a returning segment, a days after controversy. And
days without controversy.
And I'm gonna set that timer back to 0 because
I think so.
We've got it was, what was it called? The simultaneous incapacitation. Almost rolls off the tongue. Well,
was it?
Well, I'm gonna play devil's advocate. Let's say yes, it was, because both machines were struggling to transition across the arena at the same time at one point. There was definitely a moment where Mammoth couldn't move, Tombstone were kind of crab walking as well. They couldn't get out of their circumference. As that kind of count went on, Mammoth's wheel fell off that was damaged, and kind of was, I'm going to use the term crackening it. Was able to one wheel sort of get a little bit of movement across the arena, and Tombstone just stopped completely because I think they got high centered. Well, they got high centered. The one wheel was spinning, but the other one wasn't. Was stuck.
I think Ray said somewhere that the bolt that holds the weapon in place got stuck in the kill saw slot.
Oh no,
that is unfortunate because the kill saw slots were made wider this year to allow the pyrotechnics.
And for forks, totally not for the fork.
Jamison, did they measure the width of your forks for the new kill saw slot? Is that how it went?
Well, no. Well, we designed our forks around the old kill saw slot. So they won't fall in, but the barbs on the ends are they should be designed a little bit differently to accommodate for the increased width. So it's like we should have no problem floating over those, but
as it turned out,
Mammoth didn't end up quite as broken as I think people thought it would, which is more testament to the fact that Mammoth isn't just a load of scaffolding put together.
I respect the tactics of just absolutely send everything we've got into Tombstone's weapon and see what happens. That was a big play.
We commented when we were watching the episode that it was great to see them say, I am not adapting my robot for Tombstone, I will fight them as I am.
It's brave strategy. It didn't really work out, but it was a brave one nonetheless. No. Where do we stand on the almost... Again, Mammoth, the team was saying, we're moving, and I agree to a point, but had it gone too far by that point already? And I've read
there were still seconds on
the
clock to stop that count on one side, but...
Yes. I've seen in some places where one machine was counted out and then they realised, the other machine's dead, and then they were counted out and then things kind of got a bit confused. I think the judge's decision was the correct one. Let's not beat about the bush. Tombstone was on top and was winning the fight at that point.
Should it have gone to a judge's decision?
That's the question. Mike, I'll ask you first. What do you think?
Well, I was just watching this fight when you messaged me to come on the podcast, and I watched it probably about 9 or 10 times trying to pick up on editing trickery because, I make videos. I know how they can manipulate what people are expecting. And I noticed they kind of replayed some clips of the robots moving and making the same maneuver from different angles. And I think the clip of the referees communicating with each other, that it was simultaneous, I think that was filmed separately. Because in every shot, the referees are standing between all the team members except for those shots where they're clearly by themselves. Mm-hmm. So I think there was some editing trickery going on here and I don't think it's malicious editing trickery. I think it was just very fast and very confusing for everybody involved.
So
they're just trying to make a coherent timeline for the audience.
Yeah. And obviously, by that point, they've obviously declared the fight has been stopped because they're both not moving.
Yeah, so. Exactly. I mean, me personally, I think Mammoth should have been counted out. Malice earlier crab walked about a quarter of the way across the arena and was still counted out.
Yeah, this is
that's consistent.
It's very consistent with that. But neither robot could engage the other to continue to fight. They were out.
Correct. JMO, what do you reckon?
This was just as confusing as you guys had seen it. I wasn't watching it live. I was watching it from the pit screens, but we were wondering because we don't hear the audio, so we're just like, what just happened here? I think I remember my reaction was, oh my god, did Mammoth just beat Tombstone? Because we only see the result. We don't know how they're counting it out. I do believe that in the confusion of it, in the moment, there was confusion about what exactly was transpiring. So I would totally believe that they filmed the referees just for the clarity of the TV show. That's what they decided to do is the simultaneous. But this all comes down to what is the definition of mobility, and there's crazy stuff that we've seen before, right? So is crab walking enough mobility? And to stay consistent, unfortunately, I think that as you guys noted, that was not enough motion. So the double count out, the simultaneous incapacitation, really unfortunate. Otherwise, for definitions of crab walking, if it was acceptable, I think Mammoth was still moving technically. Tombstone was totally centered in the slot. So
I wonder if later on down the line they look at the sort of crab walking ruling and that's sort of adjusted to say, if one robot is completely stationary and the other is crab walking, the completely stationary robot is counted out first or something like that. I don't know, but I feel it mean, if not anything else, that a robot that was moving still gets counted out.
For me,
I think they're working on that definition for sure. Yeah. And also the proceedings generally for countouts, because there's also occasions where, okay, what happens if a robot engages you? Do you keep counting out? I think it should reset because they're messing with you. So if maybe the countout procedure future looking would be you have to leave them completely alone and maybe go to in boxing a neutral corner or something like that.
Yeah. Back into your starting square perhaps. But yeah.
It was an interesting fight for sure, and I think very fortunate for Ray that it did end up being the rules the way that they fell, because had Tombstone lost this one, it's a big uphill climb after
I still think it is.
I think it is because it's not. It wasn't a. You look
it's
at the
not
fight
a convincing
last year,
win.
You look at last year. Their second fight they beat Slapbox, didn't they? And that was fairly one and done. It was not. It was a very comprehensive victory. This wasn't that. It was.
They've got a loss to Captain Shredderator. They've got a dicey judge's decision against Mammoth. They really have to pull out all the stops in their third if they get a slot in the 32.
I did really enjoy the little kind of promo that was cut before this, though, of Ray kind of sitting down and saying, "Look, I understand people were going to say Tombstone's lost it, but everyone." No matter, James, I'm sure you're exactly the same, but obviously you fought Tombstone. Like, no one wants to fight it because it hits really hard.
I'll fight it again.
You've got a score to settle, so that doesn't count.
Yeah, we can strike back now, so we're ready to go.
But for the if you go in the arena with Tombstone, you're going to take some big hits, and it's going to be a bit of a mess in there. Either way, it's not something you want to fight like. Just from
sane people don't want to fight him for sure.
Yeah.
Everybody who goes in the arena with Tombstone says goodbye to their robot because even if they win, they're not rebuilding it afterwards.
It's not going to be. It's not going to look the same afterwards, at least, surely. No.
The face only a mother could love.
Yeah, pretty much. Let's talk about fight number 5, which was a rematch from 2019. For those that have seen on the basement fights on YouTube, Lucky and Tantrum fought in 2019, and it was, I've watched it since. It was an awful fight. It was so bad. Go and watch it. It's on YouTube. Anyone can watch it wherever you are in the world, and it is a dreadful fight. Lucky has a wheel dead at the start of the fight.
That's a great selling point there, Sam.
Yeah. It's worth watching just to see how bad it is. It was not good. It was not good.
What I will say, how good it was to see Lucky back in the box, and how different it is to the last time we saw it. How better it is to the last time we saw it.
I really enjoyed Lucky.
It got under Tantrum. Bearing in mind, Tantrum can get under anything. Tantrum got under SawBlaze. SawBlaze gets under everything. And now Lucky is now at the bottom of that pecking order of who's lower ground clearance. You know, it's just like...
I'm going to ask the question then. Should Lucky have left Tantrum on the rail? Because I think Tantrum eventually would have shook themselves off. I think there was enough
I think so.
jiggling about to make it
happen. I think they must have seen that they were coming off either way and wanted to get another flip in for aggression's sake.
You know, I didn't get a chance to watch the fight right before this, but I think the part of the rail they were stuck on is that part that flaps out to dislodge the robots anyway. So even if Tantrum was stuck there, that probably would have dislodged them.
Yeah.
It was fascinating to see how obviously the new driver of Lucky as well kind of adapted to things quite quickly.
Did such a good job for a first-time heavyweight driver. Oh my goodness. He took it to one of the best driven robots in the field. And he saw that when they were going to get off, I might as well get a free hit in before they get loose. I don't know anybody that can drive that well as a first-time driver.
Oh yeah, he was practicing nonstop before all this. He had like a bunch. The Lucky team had a bunch of D2s in their pits, and they're just driving it constantly and getting other drivers to spar with him. So he's really getting in that practice. I was going to, except that they gave me a pistol grip radio, and I said, no thanks. I'm not gonna change. I'm not gonna rewire my brain for a different radio before I fight. So
fair enough. I mean, it was a good start for Lucky, and then Tantrum showed the quality that we kind of came to see from it last season, and it didn't give it a chance after. Like they made one mistake at the start, and Lucky got underneath them, but after that, it was just one-way traffic, and Tantrum really has like that weapon as well, like sounding really good. It was spinning up really nicely. Took off the armor panels on the wheels. Took off the wheels, and Lucky. Unfortunately, I was really sad because Lucky never really kind of inspired me in previous seasons. I know obviously it's based off Ziggy, the super heavyweight killer, and in 2016 it had a great fight with Beta, but since then it's kind of slipped down, and I've never really been like, wow, Lucky's in the arena, and this kind of made me think, I don't know, this is great.
Was it 2018 Desperado tournament?
It did well in that, didn't it?
It did, and it had some really good fights in that, but yeah, I can see what you're saying, and this is definitely, I think, one of the best versions of Lucky we've seen so far.
Certainly on BattleBots, this is probably one of its best fights. I think, obviously the design itself has been around for a long time and has had many fights over the years, but like since BattleBots came back, it's kind of not really lived up to that really high bar that Ziggy had. Obviously, I know the machines are so different, and it's a different kettle of fish in BattleBots. The quality of machine is so high, and the damage output is so high, and I think it's definitely not a machine conceived in today's really high tech brushless era, but it still has a place, I think, and it was very evident in this fight where they took on one of the best and gave it a good run.
It's also nice to see. There's not many launchers or flippers in BattleBots, and Lucky is probably the most unique of all of them.
It's a 4-bar.
It's a 4-bar, yeah. It's so wonderful to see it.
See, I want to see a full power flip from Lucky. Because I've messaged with Mark, the team captain, a few times. Lucky has a few different power modes. They've never used their full power flip in combat.
Really?
Apparently, and this is what Mark tells me, apparently they can roof robots with it. But if they miss, they'll break the robot's frame doing so, which is why they've never used it.
There is a load of Lucky testing online that you should definitely go and check out and go and seek out. It's really quite powerful. They spent a long time testing it out in their off season. So, yeah.
Maybe if we're lucky, we'll get to see Lucky give us that full power.
Hopefully, we can only hope. Tantrum moves to 2-0. One thing I did want to say before we moved on from this fight. Tantrum, I feel like, given that their first two fights were now Malice and Lucky, their strength of schedule has been quite interesting for me. I thought they would be given much more tough opponents than what they've had. Obviously, there's not any shade to either Malice or Lucky, but they were a semi-finalist last year, and they fought Malice, who obviously mostly unchanged. Obviously, a few things under the hood, but for the same part, it was more or less the same robot. And a returning Lucky, I feel like they would have had, I don't know, maybe like an end game by now or something. You know, that again, Jamo, with the
Do you know who I want to see him fight?
Go on.
I want to have
SawBlaze.
I want to have a proper rematch against Tombstone. Because obviously the first version fought Tombstone and had fists thrown. I mean, and I don't mean it was fighting, I meant it was taken off. So yeah, we know Tantrum is a tough little box. Let's test it against something really strong. And if Ray does beat them, he's then beaten a top 4 machine and deserves a slot in the 32.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
Make it happen, BattleBots in the past.
And if not, book it for next season. Let's have it. Why not? Let's talk about fight number 6. Sports nice guys finish last is the tagline for this one because it's Ghost Raptor versus Glitch.
I feel we need to address something about Ghost Raptor.
What's that? Go on.
The
the picture.
extension.
We call it
the self-writing mechanism on
the
the top.
protrusion. Yeah.
Yeah,
It is for self-writing.
the bulge.
It is for self-writing. That's what it's for.
I do find it interesting that this season
That's a good way of describing it, Jevon. Thank you.
Yeah, they have a design expert on their team, and they've okayed that to go into the arena. I mean, they've got a design consultant. That's it. That's the word I was looking for. And the design consultant is going, yep, that's fine.
I'll be honest. Like, I kind of expected Glitch to walk this one, and it really didn't, because Ghost Raptor, as experienced as Chuck is, last season didn't really fare too well. He himself kind of said that, you know, we've been out of the game for a very long time, and it wasn't quite at the level we thought it was going to be. It's much higher. Obviously, Glitch is a new machine, has its new machine gremlins, which we'll get onto in a minute. But I was surprised how well Ghost Raptor fared early on. Obviously,
I do need to say one thing about this year's Ghost Raptor, in that at least it's symmetrical this year.
That it does spark joy, yes.
It does, yeah. It's an improvement over last year, massively. It's just this was sort of a fight, and then it wasn't, and then it was again, and then it wasn't again.
My thing was, obviously the team mentioned afterwards, I think the wedge got bent under for Glitch. I also think one of their wheels was having issues.
It did, yeah. There is a full Glitch write-up if you go and see their Facebook page, and one side of their drive was really struggling, so they were only strafing using one side of what they could, basically.
Right. It makes a lot more sense. I'm sure they've run over some debris as well, and as soon as they ran over it, one of the wheels kind of started having a bit of a moment as well.
I was going to look up what it was, but it would take me too long.
They ran over some shrapnel in the arena. The weapon was good though. It gives out some really nice juicy
got some
hits.
Power to it. Again, it's a nice egg beater shape. We spoke about Riptide the other, was it last week before?
Yeah,
last week. Is a sort of based egg beater. This is a sort of very based egg beater design as well, but with that beautiful strafing. I mean, just watching it glide around the arena, you expect it from Shatter now, so it's so lovely to see it from another machine. It moves just yes, made me feel very happy.
It was good to see Chuck. I'm thinking of old school Roboteers here. It's a bad thing. It was nice to see Chuck release Glitch off the wall. He could have just left it and took the win, but at the same time he also realised it's their first fight. So
I think Chuck gets all the sportsmanship points this week. I mean, after his sort of interview, really going, they don't seem that powerful a machine. And you then see him helping them out in the pits, get it ready to go. You see him get them off the wall not once but twice. It's just
very wholesome.
Yeah,
very wholesome.
It's the power of that Mohican, I think.
One of the other things to keep in mind is the way that the judges see it. Freeing a stuck opponent is considered extremely aggressive. So if you're pretty sure it's going to end up going to the judges, you want to make sure you get as much aggression points as you can.
Yeah. I think without the last hit that Glitch got on Ghost Raptor takes that judge's decision. But the damage was stacking up at that point.
Yeah, that last little 10-second rally really pulled it back the other way, I think. And
yeah.
It was impressive.
It has to count for some aggression as well, I suppose. It must have been reasonably tight on the scorecards. I'd be interested to see those scorecards for this fight, actually, because not just out of you've made a wrong decision, but out of how close was it?
Well, we're not going to talk about the YouTube exclusive because we're currently recording on the Saturday, so very sorry. You'll have to wait till next week for the Retrograde versus Rampage fight. If you have seen it, you'll know that we're not really missing much. Let's just say that much. The main event, JMO. What were your thoughts when you were told your opponent was going to be the guy you fight at Norwalk pretty much every month?
Oh, actually, Calvin and I had never fought before.
Oh, you not fought by this point?
We see each other often, yeah, and it's been, it's been one of those matchups where it's like, when is Silent Spring going to fight Lynx? And every single time we go to an event, for whatever reason, something happens to him, something happens to me. We were very close at Motorama one time. We were one Thunder Child away from fighting.
Bloody nice.
Nate Franklin. We were one Thunder Child away from fighting. And even at the November Norwalk, I mean, I guess that's after this, but Silent Spring had an early exit and Lynx went on to win it. So it's like we had the possibility of fighting, we never did. And there's similar events in the past as well. So this was actually the first time that Calvin and I have fought in the history of our entire lives.
That's crazy.
Now you've fought loads because of December finals.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the time machine. We now know why. Another reason why Calvin was very happy for that Lynx victory.
It makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah, the context is very good there.
It's like, I can't even be mad. Those are really good hits.
No, absolutely not. Talk about your kind of impressions of the fight, because obviously Mad Catter is no pussycat. It's not. It's a very, very powerful machine this time, and last year was a big leap forward. This year is another leap forward again. The way that it, obviously how good Calvin is at driving. He's won endless amounts of tournaments over the years. What was kind of the mindset going into this?
Well, we said, okay, Mad Catter, all right. They did extremely well in their first fight. So there's a little bit of that understanding how good your opponent is. I mean, obviously, if we're main eventing, it's going to be a big deal no matter what. But then more curious about what they're going to run, because they have a lot of different options. I don't think they have a hammer this year. So it's going to be vertical disc, lifter, and then some combination of, extraneous bits. I think the thing that I personally had not accounted for was the use of the mini bot, because, okay, we see Gassy Cat here. And I think that's based around some D2 hardware. I don't think it had the full pushing power. It was mainly for the flamethrower. But I noticed that when we were doing the lineup, they had a different mini bot, which was actually, I think it was the former Spicy Meatball. So that's like a billet aluminum chassis, powerful brushless drivetrain, and somewhere in 100 or 200 pounds of magnetic force. The one that really bullied Overhaul and gave it a hard time. So I was like, okay, I had not thought about that one. So I was really stewing over that one while we were like lining up, trying to think about like, what are we going to do about this mini bot? And
you destroyed it.
Oh yeah,
the devil out of it.
It gave me so much anxiety when there was a free moment. I just gave it the vertical spinner and then punted it to the wall. So get out of here.
Brought out the magic smoke, and it was a. I think we've never really seen like the arena kind of filled with smoke the way it has done, and then
from
the fight.
Such a small robot
and the
producing that amount of smoke.
It was brilliant.
There is a wonderful a sequence of you're attacking Mad Catter in the front of frame. In the background, you've got this sort of fog just protruding over the entire box, and it is like a scene out of some sort of anime.
Yeah, literally, it's like I was like watching Robot Wars Series 10.
Yeah,
couldn't believe it.
And then Mad Catter also, they added their heavier top armor. So they had some extra weight after everything was said and done. I think French Fries freed up some extra weight for them. So they had the AR-500, 3/16 AR-500 top that went on the back of the robot to protect all the good bits. So they added that on there as well. So they made a lot of changes. They showed a lot of respect for our machine. So, it was an honor. We're all worried that we wouldn't be able to get through it, but we did.
You certainly did. And there's a few great shots. Obviously, it's again, some of the gifs I've seen come out are again very interesting, but like the way that SawBlaze kind of slamming into the wall, like really giving it the beans against the upper deck, and like
That's one way of putting it. I've seen those gifs.
It's brilliant. Like it's just the way that like SawBlaze is just trying to mount the cat. It's amazing. It's just this whole fight was just like it just didn't stop. We kind of discussed this, myself and Jevon were kind of discussing it before we even saw it, thinking, okay, this is going to be a good fight either way. Like I had backed Mad Catter to win it, to my shame. And I think
That's
you
fine.
had as
It's
well.
fine. Everyone's got opinions. If they're right or if they're wrong, it's fine.
Don't feel bad, Sam. I was the same way. I'm still stuck in SawBlaze loses to vertical spinners mode, and they're proving
that's my thinking was, okay, the only time a SawBlaze has lost in this guise have been to Tombstone and Tombstone, Witch Doctor, Uppercut, and Tantrum. And my thinking was, okay, so I know it's beaten a few verts in its time as well, but when it does lose, it loses generally to a vertical spinner and Tombstone, but Tombstone was fairly fortunate. I thought, okay, Calvin's a very good driver. He's obviously got his eye in with this
that's
version.
My thinking is that Calvin has been dominant in Norwalk and having seen the December finals.
See, the thing is, we forgot this was before then.
Yeah.
We should have realised.
He had nothing to play for at that point, and now he had everything to play for. But yeah,
it was a wonderful spectacle.
Is this another not Spinner Proof? That's the wrong podcast. RoboCast episode where we all have to make public apologies that we all went in the wrong way for this.
I think so.
We're very sorry.
I'll never doubt SawBlaze ever again.
And, speaking of,
apologize. Don't apologize to me. No, that's fine. I think if Calvin ever gets his way with a Lynx-esque robot in BattleBots, I think that he's going to tear it up. There's no doubt in my mind.
Heavy Lynx is a scary thought.
Heavyweights is like, they cost so much money, especially for the BattleBot scale of things. You have to sort of factor in that manufacturability and economics. Egg beater weapons are just so expensive. They're expensive in the small bots. They're going to be absurdly expensive in the big robots. I think that's
spares as well because they'll get broken.
Yeah, as Calvin knows, egg beaters do in fact break sometimes. I think all the disc weapons, especially made out of the AR or the Hardox, uni piece weapons they're effective and an economical decision. So there's some playing into that. But
one thing I have to ask before we kind of start wrapping things up for the episode was, how much fun was it, like doing the kind of the build up with obviously Martin on the other team as well? Yeah, the trash talk. It seemed like you were really enjoying it.
There are two ways to skin a cat.
Yes. Oh, I'm so glad that they got that in there. So, I mean, it's a main event. It's a big deal for us. We never win main events, and we always start. Is the things that happen. We always start the season. We always lose our second fight in the main event, and all that stuff. So there's a lot of pressure building up to it. However, when you're competing against such a fun team, a fun guy, a great team, and so much personality, you relax a little bit in a sense. It's so strange despite all the pressures, and we had a lot of fun with it. The prompt was give us your best Martin Mason expression, and so we just went with it. We surprisingly did not do many takes. I think that was probably the second one. The first one was to, I don't know, someone's in the background or they were dying of laughter so badly to do it again. But that was, I wrote my own lines, that was a lot of fun. And I'm so glad that it made it in there because I was thinking about the entire time, like, oh man, I'm so proud of this. It's punny. It was good. Like it's so incredibly relevant.
It's Mad Catter as well, It's great.
There was
I was so happy they got it.
Really quite haunting moment in that build-up, though, where for some reason they decided it was a good idea to superimpose Martin's face over yours, and it was so bizarre and out of nowhere. It's just like all of a sudden, just Martin's face going, "Oh."
I always really enjoy seeing the cuts that they put together, like all the hero shots, the team shots, the promo things, because you never know what they're going to come up with, and especially this season the editors are doing an absolutely fantastic job. These are some of the best highlight reel clippy hype things I've ever seen.
It's the Rusty behind the wall for me is still the peak of this season. It was where just staring at Rusty throwing Tantrum miles into the air. That pretty much sums up this week. I think we'll end on JMO. You've now won 2 fights out of 3. At this point, were you thinking, okay, we've got to win it this year?
We're definitely feeling really good at this point. I mean, first of all, just the high of, hey, we finally won a main event. Like, that was a big deal for us. But really trying to think about what our third opponent will be. I think that was a big mystery. Our opponents thus far have been both very tough. So usually in the realm of things is, I think in that the selection committee likes to sort of give you someone on par. They might give you like an easier one depending how you do with that one, or if you're a rising robot, they'll give you someone that to sort of measure your progress, or someone above you. So there's a lot of these sort of tiers of robots they have in their mind. They're trying to figure out where to put you. So we fought 2 really tough opponents. So I guess what are they going to do? Are we going to coast in, or are they going to try and like one up us? And that's yet to be seen. I think who's standing at that same level. I mean, there's some clear robots they probably have in their mind, but we need to see how their second fight goes before making any decisions like that. So we don't know what we're going to do. We went and explored a little bit of Vegas. So.
What did you explore in Vegas? That's what I want to know. That's the important part.
Restaurants and casinos.
Very good.
That was my first time in Vegas. So my teammates have been there a few times. So they were like, hey, you should check out this. We all went out as a group, and it's like, Team SawBlaze on the strip doing whatever. They could have filmed another show about that.
Maybe next year. Maybe when you win. That's the real that's the treat at the end of the season. JMO, thank you very much for joining us, and I have to say, Mike, as well. Thank you very much for stepping in last minute. It was a very, very thankful.
Our other co-host Steve unfortunately couldn't make it tonight, but he did want to say hello to you, JMO.
Hey Steve.
With that, then, I have been Sam Elliott 64.
I have been World of Woodrow.
I'm Mystrsyko here for some reason.
And I'm Jamison.
And myself and Jevon will see you next week. Maybe we'll see Steve.
We hope so.
We hope so. All right. Take care, everyone.